But the problem is that people are not willing to wait that long anymore. People are not going into it nowadays, going into school thinking I'm going to be there for 10, 15 years and make partners. It's not happening. They want a good experience, ownership, not toxic, good pay, decent pay, and then everything else they're willing to do. But, that culmination, not great.
I'm Brandon Poe, and this is the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast, where you can enjoy engaging conversations about mergers and acquisitions and accounting practice management. Listen in on strategies to build a more fun and valuable accounting firm. All right, welcome to the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast. I have Yuri Capilovich on today, who's also known as the Fun CPA, as you can see in his background if you're watching on video. And Yuri's mission is clear. He wants to change the perception of the accounting profession, which is a tall task. Here's a secret. He has no idea what he's doing online. It's been that way for 4 years, ever since he started posting in August 2021. If you're wondering what to expect from his content, so is he. Generally, he shares his journey, posts some funnies, hosts his own networking events, and runs a community called Mentors Count, providing mentorship for accountants in their first 5 years. Mostly he aims to be the voice for those at larger firms who can't say the things he can and does say. Beyond that, he has about 15 years of high net worth experience and now focuses on small business owners' returns, an area which he's built a strong reputation. Welcome, Yuri.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, man. What a great intro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's you got some fun stuff going on. I love the idea of mentorship, but I want to kind of get into something we said in your bios, like your mission is to change the perception of the accounting profession.
Yeah.
So what do you think the current perception is? You probably have a good feel for that, talking with kind of younger CPAs coming into the profession. So what are they telling you?
Yeah, I'm going to share that what the real realization of all of the perception came about. And I did about a month and a half ago. I did a presentation at Rutgers University. It's not that far from me here. I went there. So I went there and I did a presentation to their business honor society, let's call it Beta Alpha Psi. Back in the day, when I was in college, the proportions of accounting to finance to marketing to whatever business degrees was pretty evenly split. Accounting was probably like even 30 to 40% of the business school, populace, if you will. And now, when I went to that presentation a month and a half ago, it was 4 students doing accounting. 4 out of, now granted, in that particular class, it was probably like 40 people or 50 people. But again, the percentages are small. And so to bring context to that, the perception is not good. The perception is it's boring. Mm-hmm. It's low pay. The culture is toxic. And there's no motivation to go there, and there's no upside, because people, like when I went into the profession, everybody was like, I'm going to make, everybody's mentality was, I'm going to go to these firms, work there for 10, 15 years, make partner, make a shitload of money. By the way, can I curse? I don't know if I can curse or not.
It's okay. Yeah.
Beat me out. All right, cool. I'll watch. But, make a lot of money. And so, and go into it and do that. But the problem is that people are not willing to wait that long anymore. People are not going into it nowadays, going into school thinking I'm going to be there for 10, 15 years and make partner. It's not happening. They want a good experience, ownership, not toxic, good pay, decent pay, and then everything else they're willing to do. But, that culmination, not great. So that's what I try to highlight a lot in my content.
Are they upset with the number of hours expected in tax seasons? Are the hours probably a big obstacle, or is it more of just like, this is not fun work and it's not great pay?
It's kind of the whole combination altogether, right?
Yeah.
But the hours, so, when I went to school, probably maybe when you went to school too, there was no Reddit, there was no Fishbowl, there was nothing that you could really see. You knew about it conceptually from friends and from tales, right?
Oh yeah.
Of people telling you, oh yeah, like I worked a lot of hours, but but it's okay. Like I'm maybe too senior, I'm a manager, I'm a this, I'm a that. and you roll with that. You're like, that's cool, and that's okay. But then like now what happened is it changed. It changed that now you're seeing the visibility into it early on. And you're in high school and you're scrolling Reddit. You don't want to be an accountant, man. Like,
Uh, yeah.
so, that's really where the challenge is at. So yeah, so that's kind of the issue, and that's kind of where it's all culminating because people are seeing that early on and be like, nah, I don't want to go into that. I'd rather go into finance where I still will work the hours, but at least I get 150 grand out of school.
Yeah. So what are you seeing is a compelling message that might shift people to look at accounting?
So I think the compelling message is many faceted, but I would say the number one thing is, I mean, what you're going to learn and what you're going to see when you're in the profession and when you're like working with clients, you're going to see some incredible insight into their lives. Like you're going to see a lot of like the business, like really dynamics and fundamentals within what they do. We have the most visibility into like their lives and being their advisors and, almost being therapists to some extent. But it does take some time. It does take some time to get to that level where enough to be that confidant person to the client. And then of course there's the firm ownership aspect side of things, but there's a lot of firms out there now too that are doing things differently where you can work at their firms and not be like a miserable, 60, 70 hour a week all the time working machine. So the options are increasing, and I think now is a good time to get into it.
Yeah. I remember, and man, I'm not good at these sorts of statistics because I don't remember them, but I remember at some point since I've been a CPA, there was a high number of CEOs of, Fortune 500 companies that came up with CPAs that came up on the finance side of the business, and they worked their way up into the, top spot. Is
Yeah.
that still the case? Do you know if that's?
I think that it's a unique kind of accountant. I would say that would then pursue entrepreneurship and rise to the top. Most of the folks that are in the profession now that are rising to the top are becoming CFOs. Which again, we get paid a lot of money and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But the journey, a lot of times I do feel like people, again, this is a 15-year, 20-year journey to get to
Yeah.
those kind of places. And so everybody, I mean, when you look at YouTubers making, $1 million a month,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's tougher to sell something that you're going to get in 10 years, 15 years when
Yeah.
you can start YouTube and in 10 years, 15 years. Like, so there's that challenge also. But I do think generally speaking, the skill set, what we learn, what we know, what we're doing is
Yeah.
pretty important.
So you talk with a lot of CPAs or accountants that are kind of working for some of the bigger firms. And again, in the bio, we mentioned you're kind of serving as the voice for some of those people, saying some things that that they don't say. What sorts of things
Mhm.
can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I like to stir the pot. I like to especially on Fridays. That tends to be I call it Saucy Friday post. But really, what I talk about is the old school mentality of partners. What I talk about a lot, and that really kind of culminates in the raw billable hours, only working as much as possible with no sense of thought to efficiency. It's what everybody is thinking, right? Like you're penalized for being efficient right now as a staff person or senior person or manager person, right? You're encouraged to put in more time than you've spent, because if you put in what you have spent, truly, you will be penalized because your hours will be short. Like you will not hit the 55 or 60 hour minimum, work requirement. So those kinds of things is what I talk about. I talk about like, I had a post the other day that did pretty well. It was for like these pizza parties, rewarding your staff with pizza after tax season. It was like I don't know if you ever seen that meme where the guy like slaps it's like the duct tape or whatever on the hole, plugging in the water. It was like water's pouring out. It's like, it's like burnt out staff, overworked, people, burnt tax season, like terrible culture. And it was like pizza party. We'll fix that. like so.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of the mentality. I poke a lot of fun at that, but I do voice the kind of thoughts of many of the people in the profession, and I talk about the private equity side of things and how that's impacting things negatively. Like there's just a lot of things that unfortunately are not in the profession's favor at the moment.
Yeah. You mentioned private equity. You're seeing some negative. What are you seeing there?
A lot of stuff. I get messages, a lot of messages around, basically the firms just kind of changing. Like before private equity, it was unpleasant to some extent, but at least, at the core of it, like the client service was what was at its heart and at its key. But private equity comes into these firms and starts squeezing out hours. Like we're not widgets, right? Like accountants are people, and the only
Right.
thing that we got, we're not. You can't make the process, take less time. But that's the squeeze. It's less time. It's reducing like things that you enjoy doing, like going out to lunch and that not being reimbursed anymore, or like pushing hours even harder than they were pushed before. It's just pushing people really hard out of of that particular firm. So I think
Yeah.
the reward now or the upside now is going to be the firms that don't take PE. That's going
Uh,
to be where a lot of the staff is going to go, in my opinion.
yeah. We actually sell a lot of firms to private equity.
Mm,
Not all of our firms go to PE, but some of them do. And we try to pick the ones that are, or try to help our clients, I should say, pick the ones that are a little more, um, you know, thoughtful of the people side of the business and not just driving by the spreadsheets. I call
yeah.
them, but
So
they've got to get that return on investment. So I think there's going to be that pressure, and it will be interesting to see what happens with
yeah,
talent as a result of this. Um, Interesting story. American Express back in the 1990s. I don't know if you know this or not, but they were acquiring a lot of accounting firms back then,
yeah.
and it was the talent that really kind of broke it, because your A players that were acquired, they would leave because they were like, "Hey, if I'm going to work this hard, I might as well work for myself."
Oh
And
yeah,
so there was a lot of that, and then American Express got out of that space. They don't own accounting
yeah.
practices anymore. So
Yeah, to your point about PE, like I don't necessarily think all PE, obviously all PE is bad. Like you said, I think there's some that do it right. I know of a few out there that do a good job and that actually care about the staff and don't necessarily push it. But, you know, the trajectory of when a lot of times PE gets into things isn't great. Let's just
yep,
put it that way.
yep,
And so, and to your point about A players leaving, I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen and already is happening. And we can see it in the path of a lot of people taking to go to firm ownership. I had a post about this the other day that, I think, well, firm culture already as it is without PE is pushing people into entrepreneurship that otherwise wouldn't want to. Not
mm,
everybody is meant to be a, firm owner, and that's okay.
yeah,
You could be an employee, you can, like there's a lot of pains and a lot of struggles of being a firm owner. Like that's the reality. And you're wearing so many hats and all that. Leaving it at the door, so to speak, and being an employee is great. The problem is, they're not treating the folks that, well. And so everybody's looking for an exit. And now as PE enters and makes it even more unbearable in many places, people are just like, all right, that's it. I'm done. Just like you said. And they're
yeah,
going to go and launch their firm.
yeah, yeah, or go into private,
Yeah.
industry.
Or go into private industry and just leave the public accounting. So
Yeah.
the next couple of years are going to be interesting.
Do you need to roll out a price increase for your tax clients this year? Download our price increase letter template. It comes straight from our workshop, Accounting Practice Academy, and has been used by countless owners to increase their profitability without losing clients. Get your free copy today.
Do you think there'll be a lot of upward pay pressure though? Like, wouldn't you think these PE firms are going to go, "Hey, we're gonna have to go up on comp to attract the talent," and then there's going to be a competition among firms for good talent? I mean, I think that's happening now, and salaries are pushing up.
They are.
I actually predict they will continue to get pushed up. I think there'll be more
Uh,
and more competition for talent.
I think so too. But unfortunately, I think that's going to be at the more experienced level.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing that is also scaring me a little bit is that the push towards AI and outsourcing is going to hollow out the space, like where, where you had entry level people coming in, staff, people from college coming in. I'm getting some of the report too that even people from college are struggling to get jobs, right? Like that was never a thing. But now you got people coming in from college, right? Beforehand, coming in from college, learning the basics, to putting in the reps of learning, and then growing slowly up the ranks and getting their experience in, and then becoming partners or managers. But if you hollow that out and you replace that with, I don't know, AI or outsourcing, like who's going to be your manager and senior manager in a few years from now?
Yeah. How are you going to build the pipeline? There's no pipeline.
That's why I say it'll be very interesting to see. So I hope that some of those kind of practices go by the wayside, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's my hope and dream.
Yeah. Well, if the salaries go up, that's going to pull people into the profession. It's going to pull people to, okay, so maybe you have to work really hard for the first few years and you have to grind and learn and not get paid super well. But, the payoff is there. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be there.
I think it'll be there.
So I want to talk about mentorship because I'm a huge believer in mentorship. I've been fortunate enough to have several. I can think of like 3 key people who were just instrumental in helping me develop my career, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's a big part of your work with your Mentors Count community. So tell me why you're passionate about this topic, and what does it do for the industry? What does it do for the mentor and the mentee? Because I think the mentor benefits as well.
Yeah. I remember myself, just like I would go back to my days, both at the firms when I was a manager and I was able to be a mentor to people. And, just that feeling when somebody comes into your office and asks you those questions and says to you, hey, like I'm struggling with this particular manager or this particular scheduler, and I'm having an issue like managing my schedule. And I would give them that advice, those tips, and just, help them understand that the journey isn't fast, and navigating it is very important. But a lot of that is gone now. And I think a lot of that mentorship is tough to find because the problem is that because of all these outside pressures and some people leaving the profession to go start their own firms or, PE squeezing people out, whatever it is that externally is making folks want to leave or feel like they're pressured to do more work, leaves less time for that mentorship. It really does. A manager now or somebody up there who would be a good mentor is forced to work more hours and not have non-billable time. So it's super challenging. So that's really the idea came from, to just have a place to go where there's soft skills you can learn, where there is, like some tax technical stuff you can learn, or just have a place where you can just ask your question in an open forum where nobody's going to like judge you or, and give you like real genuine advice. So to the mentees, to answer your question, like it's a good place for them to go to get that information and feel like kind of like safe, feel like it's a safe space for them to do that. And also for the mentors, it just feels good. Like it feels good to help someone. Like I know it does for me all the time when I help people out, but I want to do it at scale because it's tough to keep track of all the LinkedIn messages and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like short-term versus long-term thinking, right? Mentorship is a longer-term investment for both.
Yeah.
And I do think PE may be introducing more and more short-term thinking into the industry because a lot of them have, turnarounds. They want to turn these around pretty quickly, and so there's that short-term pressure. Well, that's hopefully that will grow. It's great that you're kind of fostering mentorship because, man, it's just for the long term, it's like a game changer.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, it's tough. The membership in there, I mean, really, and I try to promote it and I try to push it forward, but I don't know what it is. I don't know I think a big part of it is the follower base that I've had on LinkedIn over the years was primarily firm owners or wannabe firm owners. So that's not really for them necessarily. There are other places to go for that.
Yeah.
And people in the profession that are in their first 5 years, like, I don't know, I think they're just busy trying to just kind of survive. And so going out and finding a mentorship community isn't hasn't really it's been a tough challenge. I'll be honest. It's been really tough to get that to the point where I'm actually going to be turning that over, the mentors count. I mean, I'll be still involved, of course, but I'm going to be turning it over to one of the members and within it who wants to build it out further, and push it out. And she has a better following than me in that space, so I think that would be very helpful. But yeah, no, running a community is tough, and especially getting the right folks in there is tough.
Yeah. Yeah, you run some networking events for accountants too, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's probably going to be expanding in some way in 2026. But I've run, because kind of like the Fun CPA kind of came about, I was like, what's fun? I enjoy networking. I really enjoy good networking, though. I don't enjoy, and never did, like that forced, like you're in some dingy conference room thing and you're just like, ugh, like I don't want to talk to these people. And a lot of times I just distinctly remember myself like coming into it already wanting to go home.
Yeah.
Like, so my whole thing about creating that was I want to do something different. I want to have an event and something that people want to actually go to and like stay. And my events have been like people would just stay until the end. Like it was that fun. So yeah, I catered it and circled it around fun. We had like, good food, DJs. The latest one had boat rides. Actually two of them had it. The first one and the last one had boat rides with it, open bar. I was on the sand, like in this really nice little beach bar vibe kind of place. And it was a ton of fun. And people, I think, connected better in that kind of atmosphere. And really just talk about like, I really just wanted to create a place where people could just come, hang out, and, like learn from each other. That's really what the bottom line of that is. And I think what I'll be doing in 2026 is making it, partying is fun and all, but the party vibe is not super conducive to like really connecting. I think, people connected well. And what I loved seeing in the events is like people didn't exchange business cards. And I love that. I hate business cards. Like, man, I got business cards right here on my desk like that, I got like, I'm not doing anything with these things. Like to me is when people exchange phone numbers and like genuinely connect, like that's huge to me.
Yeah. I think the venue is important too. Like I know personally, like if I'm looking at conferences or things I want to do, I want to go somewhere that looks like it's fun to be,
Yeah, and Beach Bar was fun. I had it at a brewery. The brewery one was probably the best venue. Really good beers, like really good food that I had. I had these pizza guys that actually have been at some of my other parties, and they just do like handmade pizzas right there on the spot. Toss them and put them in a little oven that they bring with them, and then they just get like slices of this pie, that pie, like, and it's working all night. That was fun.
Yeah.
So that was a really good time, and there's some good guys too. Like, and so that vibe was better because it was not as loud. Like I had a little speaker there, we were playing a little bit of light music, but everybody was really just chilling, and I heard some good conversations happening. So that was a good one. I might replicate that one again.
Well, hey, if you want to do one in Charleston, South Carolina, maybe I could get involved. Charleston's a great city for events.
Oof, I know. I've been there once on my road trip back home from Florida, back to Jersey. And stayed there in Charleston. Such good food and good vibes. I went to some brewery there. I remember it was really good, but don't remember the name. But it was a really fun city for sure. So
that's cool.
Maybe one day, who knows?
Yeah. Well, how did you start this? The Fun CPA. It's really unique in the space. How did that get going?
So much of it really came out of just like posting on LinkedIn. So I'm posting on LinkedIn for like 4 years now, 4.5 years. And initially, like I just started adding it to my hashtags, to my like picture of like, I'd ride my bike and share some thoughts about the profession and end it with the Fun CPA. It was not intended to really be anything. And then as that grew and I kept posting that, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I went to this event for like rich people toys. Basically, they had like private jets and helicopters and sports cars. And I asked to have a booth, and they said, "Yeah, you can have a booth." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Like they're like a CPA with a booth. Like whatever, come by. I guess they had availability. They put me in the back, which was kind of funny. um, but it wasn't that expensive. It was nice. And then I got my sign together. I did a bunch of like stuff to kind of prep for it. And then people were just looking at it like, "What? The fun CPA? What?" Like it just didn't translate. And I was like, yeah, so I'm onto something, because when it doesn't translate, you're onto something. So that
Yeah.
that was really cool.
That's so just kind of organically happened.
Yeah.
You transitioned though. You were focusing on high net worth. You're not doing that anymore. You're focusing primarily on business owners, or
It's
could be
both. I
some
mean,
overlap there, but you're
yeah, a little bit of overlap, but the definition of high net worth just shifted. Like obviously when you're in the big firms, high net worth is, 10, 50, $100 million. That's, the returns I was working on. But now high net worth just means, $1 million or, like it's still high net worth, but not to the level that I was at before. So the average of my clients is probably 500 grand or so a year, which is still, I feel like still considered high net worth, and they still need a ton of tax planning.
yeah,
But yeah, the scales just shifted.
yeah, yeah. So want to kind of turn the page a little bit and ask you some of the questions we have been
Sure.
asking all of our guests lately, and that's, do you have a good story, like a memorable or outrageous, either client story or
Yeah.
any kind of work related or career related story that you can share?
Yeah, I do. I have a crazy one, which is definitely like it was actually so this person got referred to me, needed some help, because they were trying to buy a house. And so they were not even a client of mine. They needed a house. They were like kind of in between homes. It was a very like tough situation for them because like they sold their house and they're like needed to buy another house. They were practically like had no place to live. So it was a little bit desperate of a situation. But what happened there was the guy was like, "Oh, hey, I need you to like sign this letter, like a CPA letter for the bank." And I was like, I usually don't do that unless it's like my client. And even then, I'm very cautious about doing that. But this particular person was not even a client. So they're like, they just put together like a P&L. And I was like, I'm not going to like sign that. That's crazy. So I'm like, no, like when I do it, he's like, oh, like I really need that because I need to buy this house. Like I really have no other choice. Anyway, long story short, they ended up like faking and writing their own letter on my behalf with my signature and faking my signature and then sending that into the bank. And I was like, oh my God, like I really had to go back to the bank. I was like, it was not me. I did not sign that. The thing said audited too. I'm like, it's crazy. Like it's not audited. Like it was all sorts of wonky. So yeah, that was probably one of the craziest stories.
How did you find out? Did the bank call you and say, "Hey, did you send this letter?"
I mean, thankfully, at least the guy was kind enough to tell me he did it, and I was like, whoa, what? Like that's crazy. So yeah,
That is strange.
yeah,
Wow.
I was like, he was like, yeah. So I ended up just sending that letter in, and I was like, what letter? And he was like, oh yeah, I just put together this letter. I was like, oh God, like it was one of those things where, like, I understand that it's a desperate situation, and I mean, it really was, but like, no. So I had to like reach out to the bank and be like, it was, I didn't write that. It was a whole lot of drama.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like, yeah, it sounds like drama.
It was a wild ride on that one.
Well, it's strange that he would just tell you that too. Like,
He didn't think anything of it. A lot of people get so confused with these CPA letters. Like it's really like, that like there's like, it's like just a letter, like it doesn't mean anything. You're just writing a letter. And the amount of times I had to explain to people like, no, like you're testifying, you're attesting to something,
Yeah.
You're not just writing a letter, like, but the confusion is out there and I can understand that.
Yeah. All right. Last question. Books. Do you have a good book to recommend to the audience?
Yeah. I've been on a book kick for like the last like year and a half, probably just all audio books. But my favorite one right now is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Man, that book is really good. I like it. So it's such a good mixture of like he talks about it because he was an FBI investigator, FBI negotiator before. And he talks about like certain things that happened when he was like on like the street and like working as an FBI negotiator and bringing that into like a business context, and really, really powerful book. I gotta reread that one actually, or re-listen to it because it was really good.
Yeah, he's got some good negotiating tips and strategies. He's really, it's really good. Awesome. Well, Yuri, this has been fun. This has been fun, a fun conversation, which is what we expected from you. So delivered.
That's awesome. Good. I'm glad. And I appreciate you having me on the show, man.
Yeah. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Best way is just find me on LinkedIn, man. I'm on LinkedIn, arguably more than I should be, but that's a different story. But I'm on there. And if you need me, just hit me up and I'll answer your questions or whatever, or just give me a follow.
Awesome. All right, Yuri, thanks. Been fun.
Cool. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Accountant's Flight Plan podcast. You can keep the momentum going by subscribing and sharing your thoughts with us. Visit our website at pogroupadvisors.com for more resources and tune in next time for more exciting conversations like this one.
This podcast was produced and edited by Liesl Epps of Poe Group Advisors. Thanks for listening.